Hey, welcome back to Album April. It's April 29th, and today I listened to Parklife by Blur. Blur is one of the more notable Britpop bands of the 90s. They were pretty successful in the 90s, and the lead singer, Damon Albarn, would go on to create Gorillaz, which was even more successful. When I was looking for albums to listen to for Album April, their third album, Parklife, kept popping up. And there is evidence that it is fairly well remembered in the UK, considering the fact that when the Royal Mail did commemorative stamps with album covers on them, this was included, along with A Rush of Blood to the Head by Coldplay, Ziggy Stardust by David Bowie, London Calling by The Clash, and Led Zeppelin 4. I checked this album out today, and honestly, I wasn't much of a fan of it. I would put this in the same category as like London Calling or The Queen is Dead, in the fact that it is very, very British. And I'm not just saying that because there is a clear British accent when they're singing. A lot of these songs are about the UK, places in the UK, things to do in the UK. And unless you're from the UK, it's kind of a niche subject. The most successful song from this album, and one of the most famous Blur songs ever, is Girls and Boys. This song was made to be a pop hit. It is very repetitive, very simple, and very catchy. I didn't think Girls and Boys was bad, but Girls Chase Boys by Ingrid Michaelson is a very similar song, and it's a lot better. The subject matter of Girls and Boys is very broad, which is not common in this album. In fact, I would make the argument that a lot of these songs in this album have too specific of a concept. Just like The Queen is Dead, it has a lot of these overly casual third-person narrative songs that I really don't see that much of a point in. And that's a sentiment I don't just have on these types of songs when they're Britpop. It's the same thing with other genres, too. It also fell into the running theme of this month, where the album picked up a lot in its second half. One song from this album I thought was good was To the End. I like how they use the sort of double meaning of we made it to the end as sort of not meaning till death do us part, and instead meaning this has run its course and we're about to break up. But by far my favorite song on Parklife was the last real song on it, This Is a Low. I know that Damon Albarn does have talent, but for a lot of this album he just kept to this very nasally, heavily accented sing-talking that is not dissimilar to Oasis's Liam Gallagher. But in This Is a Low, it was a lot more melodic, and the instrumentation was a lot better on that song than any of the others on the album. If Parklife is Blur's What's the Story Morning Glory, then This Is a Low is this album's Champagne Supernova. This big, sweeping song to finish everything off. Except it's not, because the actual last track on this album is this song that's like less than 2 minutes long and it's just mostly law. And when you end an album like that, it kind of makes it seem like you're not taking it all that seriously. Definitely, if you compare this to What's the Story Morning Glory by Oasis, I think Oasis made a better album. In the grand scheme of things, this album is not bad. I just didn't think it was very good. There are good songs on it, and it definitely is better than other hyper-British albums I've listened to for Album April, like London Calling or The Queen is Dead. But I feel like it is very much of its time and place. And it does make sense that Blur didn't take off as much in America as Radiohead or Oasis. It would be a lot more likely that I would listen to a Gorillaz album for another Album April as opposed to another Blur album. But while we're on that subject, this Album April is almost over. And I select which album to listen to on a day-by-day basis with a random number generator, and the RNG has led to the final two albums of this year's Album April being very similar. They are both alt-rock British albums from the early 90s. So I guess I'll see you tomorrow for the last album of this year's Album April.